Welcome to the Mindful University Project podcast, where we explore the power of mindfulness in daily life. This is brought to you by the Mindful University Project at the University of Rochester's Health Promotion Office, and our mission is to foster a culture of presence, compassion, and well-being on campus. By integrating mindfulness into academic and personal life, we aim to support mental health, enhance focus, and build resilience to stress.
The Mindful University Project offers a variety of mindfulness and contemplative practices, including yoga and meditation classes, retreats, trainings, and campus-wide initiatives to support students, faculty, and our staff.
Through this podcast, we're creating a space for our university community to share their mindfulness journeys, offering insights into how these practices shape their lives. Thank you for tuning in. Let's embark on this mindfulness journey together and explore how being present can transform our lives.
This one planet in this billions of years where, someone asks us if you believe in God, otherwise some energy, where they say, how would you like to go to this place called Earth? And you'll only be there for like a fleeting moment of time, but in that moment of time, you'll experience every emotion there is out there. You'll experience like happiness, you'll experience anger, you'll experience grief, you'll experience joy, love, heartbreak, empathy, but it's only going to be for like a fleeting moment of time. And then you're asked, do you want to go? And if we're here, it's probably because we said yes.
This week, we are here with Sanjna, who works for the Bank of America, but she is also a yoga teacher in the city. Sanjna shares her journey with mindfulness and how she maintains her presence in a fast-paced world. So, take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Mindful You podcast. I'm Rishika, your host for today. A little bit about me. I'm a master's student at the Warner School studying mental health counseling. And today I'm here with an old school friend of mine, Sanjna Agrawal, who I'm excited for you all to meet. Sanjna lives in New York City and works at the Bank of America as a software engineer, but she's a lot more than just her job. She's also a certified yoga teacher, a mindfulness enthusiast, and a passionate solo traveler. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, so let's get right into it. So my first question is how you got into mindfulness and yoga. I guess often people don't really correlate like corporate environments with mindfulness. So I wondered like what drew you to the whole field.
Yeah, I think so. My mindfulness journey started maybe like 5, 6 years ago when I was still in college. I was in my first year of my undergraduate, and I think at the time I got diagnosed with PCOD, polycystic ovaries disease, and essentially it's like a stress-related disorder, but it usually pops up or flares up in women anytime that their bodies and going through a lot of stress, either because of their environment, their lifestyle, their current way of life. And so I think that's when I first started tapping into mindfulness and spirituality and yoga because I realized that no matter what type of physical activities I would do, it wouldn't reduce any of my symptoms because it was purely the connection that and the signals that my mind was sending to my body. So no matter what physical exercises I did, it didn't make a difference. But I needed to sort of solve the root problem for my mind and sort of tell my body that I'm safe, and I didn't know how to do that. So that's when my journey into mindfulness and yoga and learning more about sort of the connection between the thoughts you have and the way you think and how that shows up in your bodies. And when I started doing that is actually when I started seeing progress and a lowering of symptoms and things like that. So that's like the starting point of it.
Wow, that's really amazing. So it sounds like for you it was sort of like like you were going through a stressful time in your life, and mindfulness and yoga really helped you to be more connected and to understand that mind-body connection a bit
Yeah,
more. That's really
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Yeah. And what does that look like for you? Like what kind of mindfulness activities do you do, or what kind of yoga do you do?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've been trying to focus on doing is trying to incorporate these things into as practical of a lifestyle as possible
Mhm.
because, I know like me along with all of us, we have like either our classes or our job, we have like chores we need to do, we have our social life we wish to still have on the go. So I think what I try doing more than anything is just things that I can be consistent with. I've noticed like that's usually when I find the most amount of progress. So just like really small things, like when you wake up in the morning, you try saying three things you're grateful for, or even like throughout the workday, just finding like even that 1 minute of breathing room to like sort of ground yourself and remind yourself of the bigger picture of, this is just today and like tomorrow can be a different day in the case that you're having a bad day, or giving yourself the time to think prior to reacting to the things happening around you. Just small things like that in terms of mindfulness. And yoga related, similar, I try being consistent. I do have my up and down days, of course. um, but I think, yeah, a large part of that too is just trying to make sure that I have some form of movement in some sort of way. Maybe if I'm not able to incorporate an entire practice, just a walk, that too is fine. And other than that, journaling has helped a lot for sure. I think being able to pen down some of the thoughts that like our mind doesn't actually have time to process all the way. And so it just remains like lingering at the back of our heads. So we can't focus on one particular task. I think journaling at the end of the day, just to like what went good, what went bad, what do we want to change? That's definitely been helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I really like how you incorporate it into your daily routine. I think that's so important because I feel like some people
Yeah.
think it's just like, oh, you need to set aside time for meditation or set aside time
Hmm.
for this and that. But just like doing it as you go through your day, like helps. And it's a lot more practical as well, as you were saying. Um, I wondered, were there any challenges that you face, like especially at the beginning of your journey, or like thinking about somebody who wants to like change their mindset and become a bit more mindful? Like, what would you say are some challenges or difficulties to expect?
Yeah. Well, two come to mind more than anything. One is sort of consistency. And I guess that's the thing with anything new that we're all trying to start or incorporate into our life. The thing with mindfulness and yoga is it takes a long time prior to seeing sort of the fruits of your labor and
Yeah.
the work that you've put in. And oftentimes you only actually realize how much of an impact or difference it's made when you hit a form of hurdle that maybe you faced in the past, but now your reaction to it is different, or the way it affects you is different. But for things and circumstances like that to show up, it takes some time. And so I know like for me, first like year, like it took me an entire year before I fully found consistency. And I think the reason for that is because it takes time for us to understand how to integrate things into our day. So I would say like start small more than anything, just like allocate 5 minutes, but make sure that those 5 minutes are for you and for your time with yourself or whatever you wish to incorporate. And then the second thing I would say is, and this is a challenge that I think I still have to like remind myself or backtrack on sometimes, is kind of the idea that, things like yoga and mindfulness, it's not I'm not doing them because it's something that's like a to-do item on my list, or it's not something that I have to do, but it's sort of just a state of being and the way you want to be. Um, and sort of like that difference between yoga is not like what you're doing, but it's more of like who you are and like who do you want to be, whether that's on and off the mat. It's not just, oh, in the 30 minutes that I'm going to do my practice, I'm going to be peaceful, I'm going to be like calm, I'm going to be focusing on my breath. It's more that I don't want to just be patient in that moment. I want to be that way as a whole in person. So sort of having that differentiation, I have to remind myself sometimes if I feel lazy to do my practice or don't feel like sitting for meditation that I'm like, this is not something that I'm just doing. This is who I wish to be.
Yeah.
So that's slight differentiation.
Definitely, yeah. I think that is so important. Like, of course, starting small and being patient with yourself because as you were saying, it's more of like almost an identity shift or like a mindset shift, and it doesn't
Yeah.
come immediately, obviously. And I think as well, like I remember seeing this somewhere on Instagram, but
Mhm.
somebody was saying, like, everybody always asks me, she's like a yoga person, and everybody always asks me, oh, how long does it take you to do this pose? Or how long did it take you to like master Bakasana or something? And she was just like, why does it matter? Like, yoga is all about slowing down and being patient with yourself and like intentionally trying to be slower, literally, and just like enjoy the present moment, enjoy the movement. And sometimes it definitely is so hard to do that because we're so wired to like keep chasing the next goal and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're so right in saying that, like, yeah, it takes time but that's like part of the process. And once you have it integrated in your mind, then it becomes like a natural way of life, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's so true. There are like so many times where my practice literally just looks like sitting on the mat in like Malasan. That's it.
Yeah,
Like there's nothing, there's like not even more like asanas or practices to it. It's just spending that time with your body. Yeah, exactly what you said.
exactly. Have you noticed any like differences or like major differences after you became more mindful or incorporated this kind of lifestyle?
Mhm. Yeah, I think, part the reason I got into the journey was very strongly integrated with like my health. And so like within the first few years, the biggest differences that I noticed, and I think what also motivated me to keep going was very health related. All of the symptoms that I previously faced, whether that was, mood swings or acne or hair loss or like menstrual cycle irregularities, or like irregular weight gain, weight loss, I feel like I felt a lot more in tune with my body and I no longer felt disconnected from it. Like I don't have control over it. Now felt that, the things that I do and the way that I am do have an impact on my body rather than previously I would do things or, I would try, let's say, like maybe changing my diet or eating healthier or waking up earlier, going to the gym. But I could never like find a direct correlation between, okay, if I do this, this, and this, I will now this, and this will be the result. But now I feel like I understand my body better. And because of that, I feel like I have a lot more like love or patience and care for it than I previously did. I think I took it a lot more for granted. So I think that was like a big shift for me in terms of like health and mindset. And I think other than that, it's just I feel more comforted and like things will be okay. I think part of yoga and more yoga than mindfulness, it helped me sort of understand that like this is all just a part of a journey and it's okay. Like the journey is going to involve like the good and the bad. Like we're not trying to just live a good life, we're trying to live a fulfilled life. So sort of like also just knowing that like you can go through the bad moments the same way you go through the good. And things like at the end of the day are going to be okay and they are going to be fine. So I think finding a lot of comfort in that. That's been more like recent developments, but I think definitely for the like 3, 4 years, it was very centered around like health and my sleep, and just like general lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it sounds like you had a lot of changes just health-wise, but then also like a whole acceptance almost of just the fact of life that sometimes there's going to be ups, sometimes there's going to be downs, and but it doesn't mean it doesn't stop. Like it's just a long journey of going up and down and figuring things
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely.
yeah. And like, how did you get into it? Like, were there any specific resources that you looked at, or like, did you look for like an institute, or for someone starting off who may be confused on like where to go? Do you have any advice for that, or books, or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess if I like break it down, depending on what someone would want to get into or where they would want to start, if the thing they're hoping to do is just have like a little change in state of being, like, maybe be a little more positive during the day or uh like remembering the gratitude throughout the day of, it's not that I have to do this, it's that I get to do this. That shift, I like strongly recommend one of my favorite books. It's called The Secret by Rhonda Byrnes. I
Okay.
think that's how you pronounce her last name.
Okay.
It essentially just talks about like like the power in filling your day with like an abundance, and that's purely through shifting your mindset to one of gratitude. And that alone has the power, like gratitude on its own. It talks about how gratitude is the only emotion that can light up every center of our brain in a way that we are
Mhm.
unable to feel stressed. So sort of having that mindset shift to incorporate in your day to day, highly recommend that book. If meditation and sort of the science behind it and how it works and how you yourself can get into it, there's this, I think he's a brain scientist. His name is Joe Dispenza. I
Oh,
highly
yeah, I
recommend
remember.
him.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's like he gives tours, he hosts retreats, and he has written a book. It's called Becoming Supernatural. That one I also really like. Sometimes I get a bit confused though because a lot of big words in that book.
Mhm.
But he does have a lot of TED Talks and speakers and testimonies online where he teaches people how to meditate and what it means and how do you tap into your unconscious mind and sort of the power behind it. And he shows scientific proof. So I think, starting off, it always is a bit daunting and like everyone including me is always like doubtful,
Yeah.
of like is just sitting with myself, I have so much to do, like all these items on my to-do list. I feel like this is a waste of my time, but I feel like he's a wonderful starting point because he shows like scientific proof that look like doing this results in these tangible results.
Yeah.
So I definitely highly recommend him. And if the physical yoga practice is something that anybody is interested in, there are a lot of free online YouTube channels. One of my favorite one is this one called the Sattvic Movement.
Okay.
It is a nonprofit based out of India,
Okay.
and they have like thousands of videos online, and you can cater them to what you wish to achieve out of your yoga practice, as well as the level that you wish to do your practice at. So there's like yoga for stress relief, yoga for opening up your hip flexors, yoga for better sleep at night. And I love the way they explain sort of each of the asanas and the benefit that it has to your body in the long run. So yeah, I like those are the three that I use as starting points. Sattvic movement was my first one for yoga. So highly recommend.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, those are some really good resources and good books. I've definitely heard of all three of them, and they're all, yeah, very useful, definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
I wanted to ask, like, in your field, like being a software engineer, I was interested, like, how do you think mindfulness and being in your field kind of overlap, or do you think there is any overlap or not?
Yeah, for sure. I think like mindfulness in a way is like similar, and the foundation of it is your breath more than anything. So
Hmm.
it's kind of the idea that you can carry it with you regardless of anything that you do during your day, whether that's like a software engineer or whether that you're a doctor, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a teacher. It's more of that state of being that you have inside of you that you carry or try to carry with you throughout the day. And like, for example, like applicable to my field of like engineering, I think like, on a day to day, having that like reminder of the bigger picture that, you know, a lot of times I feel like, and like seen it so much in corporate, we walk around with like sort of blinders on, like,
Yeah.
this is everything. If this doesn't work, like all hell is gonna break loose kind of
Yeah.
thing. But sort of like having that like reminder check in your head and seeing the bigger picture that, if this piece of code does not work, nobody's going to die. Things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
I can always ask for help. I always have resources. This is just one aspect of my life. This is only an entire pie. My career is only one aspect of this. And I have all these other aspects that are still going for me. I know there's so many times I have to remind myself of that when I have like a very bad day at work. And then
Mhm.
like my I feel like our natural instinct is to go into like a, oh my God, like what am I going to do? Am I going to get
Yeah.
fired? Like, there's so many doubts, especially with like how volatile markets are these days. But I think just like realizing that, okay, this is one day at one point of time, and within a week, nobody's going to remember. So sort of like I think being able to have that voice inside of you in whatever you're doing, and because we're all so busy that especially like I think in corporate field, medical field, or anything that you're doing, it's hard to take out separate time, especially during your workday, um, to, incorporate that mindfulness. But I think if you carry it with you, it's something that's very reassuring, like inside of you. So yeah, I think that way it's definitely been a very, very helpful in trying to just open up those blinders and like look around and be like, okay, this is just
Yeah.
one part in a big whole.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really interesting and so important because I think that is really true. Like people who go into corporate, like it's so easy to catastrophize your situation and, with all the pressure and the stress with the deadlines and, all of these things that are going on. And sometimes it can feel very abstract because you're just doing a bunch of codes and things like that and you
Yeah,
don't really know where it's going. So, yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
so true.
yeah, keeping a good mindset and staying calm is so valuable in an environment like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely helps. Yeah, but like it's so normal. I forget it all the time and I have to like circle back. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's part of the process, like the ability to circle back, the ability to regulate yourself. Like
Mhm.
it's normal to feel certain emotions or stress or whatever, but then having that skill to come back to baseline is so important, which some people just don't have or just haven't cultivated.
Yeah,
I
no,
wondered,
definitely.
yeah, I wondered what an ideal day looks for you. Like if you could break it down in terms of like an ideal work day, I guess, where you wake up or, how would you incorporate it? Just to give people an idea of like how they can incorporate it like practically in their routine.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'd like to give a disclaimer to this. I feel like finding an ideal routine, especially for me, it took so much trial and error. I like
Yeah.
probably changed it at least 50 times before I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, this one works. But yeah, an ideal routine, I think one of the things I realize is I'm the most calm and peaceful and productive in the mornings. So I've started to really value my morning routines more than anything else. Just having like those 2, 3 hours in the day only for myself, not prior to any asks or responsibilities from my job or like living in a house or any social obligations. Just those 2, 3 hours are all mine.
Mhm.
And within those 2, 3 hours, then I try to like prioritize like 3, 4 things. And for anyone who's starting off, I would say just like pick out like maybe 1 hour of your day or even less than that. Just move it around according to your schedule, and
Mhm.
that time is only yours. And then you can choose what you wish to fill it in with, depending on what you wish to or hope to accomplish, right? So, something that I'm trying to get better at is like meditation. I'm trying to try like new types of meditation. So, like 30 minutes out of that 3 hours chunk will always be dedicated to meditation.
Yeah.
And then other than that, movement for a large part of it. I realize that if I ever postpone my yoga practice to post my office time, it will probably not happen,
Yeah.
because I'm either too tired or I have too many things on my mind. So it's either doesn't get done or it doesn't get done with as much, clarity and presence as I would want it to. So I also try getting done with my yoga practice first thing in the morning. And, like I said earlier, it's just the amount of time that you dedicate to it. So if even if I've dedicated 40 minutes to that practice, or let's say even 20 minutes for that matter, and I just sit there, that's fine too. As long as I'm there and I'm present and I've taken out that time for myself. So
Yeah.
your day to day will look very, very different. But as long as you've taken out those chunks of time, I think, that's like extremely, extremely valuable.
Mhm.
So yeah, my morning usually goes in. I try like 5:45, 6 a.m. That's usually when
Mhm.
I try waking up. because my work starts at 9. So I
Mhm.
try to have those, and like by 8 a.m. I have to start getting ready, making
Mhm.
breakfast, making lunch. So my 2 hours in the morning are like for myself to like just sit. And recently what I've started to try to do, and if anyone is interested in the Joe Dispenza lectures, I attended one of his retreats, and so I learned this there, is that
Okay.
we have a lot more control over our thoughts than we believe. We think that, our thoughts are fleeting and they're separate from things that we can control with our bodies, but that's not true. And our thoughts, every single thought that we have results in a neurological response and a chemical response that reflects in our bodies. So what we tell ourselves can either make or break our day, and make or
Mhm.
break how we're feeling, because that chemical reaction, when it cultivates in our body, it cultivates in the form of an emotion. And so recently, what I've been trying to do is spending like 20 minutes where I sit down and I tell myself that I'm not going to get up until I feel like I'm in love with life.
Yeah.
And that could be any aspect of it. Like if I'm feeling down about my job, if I'm feeling down about a situation with a friend, if I'm just feeling groggy and upset with life,
Mhm.
it's the idea that I'm going to sit down and I'm not getting up for the next 25 minutes until I feel like I'm in love with life again. And more than the thought, it's like the idea of feeling that from the inside, that, oh, this is like this generous present moment that I have to live and I have to experience and explore. And sort of that like shift in mindset. So I've been trying to do more and more of that. And it's been pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there is a difference in the way I move about my day or the amount of peace I have when situations get overwhelming. But yeah, I try keeping my mornings mainly for me, and then a lot of the rest of the day is not in my control,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I feel like from my 9 to 5:36, it's like usually work office time. And then I try wrapping up dinner by like 7:30. So I have some
Mhm.
time for my body to digest prior to me sleeping. I'm very big on sleep. I feel like without that 8 hours, I'm like a zombie throughout my day.
Yeah.
So I try to keep at least 8 hours for sleep. Um, so like by 9:30, 10, I'll like lights out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually this is what my ideal day would be. I like sometimes I hit it, sometimes I miss it. But yeah, I've come to enjoy this routine and realize that this works for me. I know a lot of people who like prefer or feel more calm at night. And so, like, one of my yoga instructors who teach with me, they spend 1 hour at the end of their day, and they spend that time only for like phones off. That's their time to journal, that's their time to reflect. Um, so yeah, I feel like it's very dependent on each person. They like every person knows themselves best. So they'll, if you can just cater it to sitting down and thinking, this is what I want to do, what time would work best for me in my current day-to-day schedule.
Yeah. That is very cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think definitely, yeah, figuring out what you want to do, what habits you want to incorporate, and then figuring out your most, like the time you can take out where you're most calm or productive. Like for you, it's the morning. I agree for me as well, it's the morning. I also try to give myself like 1 to 2 hours every morning where I can just like sit with myself, just do some sort of mindful or meditative practice and yoga. And it's life changing. Like it feels like you can just reset from the previous day and
Yeah.
then like start with a fresh mindset. I definitely think that's so important. And then yeah, like sleep, I think definitely like I was gonna ask you like what you think are other important factors to help in your mindfulness journey. And I think you have sort of kind of alluded to that where you talked about sleep and you've talked about like taking time out for yourself, so having some sort of space or structure in your day. And then I'm guessing like nutrition or even like a support structure that supports you on that journey. I don't know, what do you think like
Yeah.
are things that you feel like really helped you?
Yeah, I think sleep definitely one a big part. I think when I was starting off the first year or two, something that was really important was a support system. I think we all, especially like, college and like work too, it's like a hustle culture just generally where
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that we have to be working all the time, but we want to be busy all the time. Either that's like spending time with friends or taking out time to work plus your studies, and there's just so much that piles on, I feel like, by the end of the day. But I think when I shared with people, and it doesn't have to be like a lot of people, just like one, two people who you feel like are your safe space, who understand you, but you tell them that this is what I want to do, this is what's important to me, and I need support in getting there. I think having that accountability the first like 3, 4 months, and when it's coming from a place of goodness and someone else is looking out for you and they have your best interests in mind too,
Mhm.
um, I think it makes the journey so much easier because it's harder doing it alone. Of course, if you're following one schedule and everyone around you is following another one, it's easier to, you know, want to follow the schedule of everyone else around you. So I think, yeah, support system is like such a large part of it. And I think another thing that helped is like just remembering the why.
Mhm.
There's like, I feel like there's so many days I'm so demotivated, or I don't wish to be as consistent, or I wish to sleep in, or just, like life gets the better of you. But I think just remembering your why of why have I chosen to do this? Why do I wish to be a certain person? Why do I wish to develop this skill? That really, really helped. And yeah, nutrition. Oh yeah, one thing that I never did previously that I now regret is
Yeah.
breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think throughout my first 2 years of college, I skipped breakfast majority days.
Okay.
Because I just like get up, shower, get ready, run to
Go.
class.
Yeah.
But it genuinely made such a difference after I like tried having a breakfast, especially one that's like more protein heavy. I'm vegetarian,
Mhm.
but like even just like finding ways of like whether it's like chickpeas or sprouts, or
Mhm.
I do eat eggs, so like eggs or anything at all. But I felt like throughout the day I didn't have as much cravings. I didn't have like as many mood swings. I felt like a bit more calmer. I didn't feel groggy. I didn't get headaches. And I never would have attributed all of that to just not having breakfast, but it did change the game. I think it really like other meals, even if they're like off, like you have end up having them at 2:30 or like earlier, or dinner, maybe you have a light one, like fine. But yeah, I think ensuring like your breakfast is healthy, it's full of protein, it made such a large difference in even I think regulating my body for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think definitely, like you were saying, support structure is so important because obviously, if your friends are on a different wavelength, then it's really difficult. I found
Yeah.
myself that I started to prioritize friendships or relationships that were more aligned with what I wanted to go into or where I wanted to go. And I think that just like sort of naturally happened on its own. But I definitely do think it's so important to surround yourself with the right people. And then, yeah, nutrition and breakfast. I could never skip breakfast. I was always the kind of person who would get hungry first thing in the morning. So I never like skip breakfast. But I've heard that from a lot of people who they just don't have time, or they're like, yeah, we just skip it. And, we have our first meal at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think you're missing out. But yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think that is so important. Yeah, so we have a couple of minutes left. Um, do you have anything else you want to share? I know that you're also a yoga teacher, so feel free to plug your like yoga classes and other stuff that you're doing, like anything else you want to impart.
Yeah. Well, firstly, like, thank you so much for like having me on this platform. I think this podcast is so
Sure.
cool. I mean, I very rarely just actually get a platform to speak about things I love to talk about. So this is so great. I'm so happy. And as for like, yeah, yoga. So I do teach in New York. I teach in person through this organization called Core Power Yoga.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's on I'll send across the link,
Yeah.
Rishika. And as for like any last minute things, I think, you know, and this is something I have to remind myself of every day, is like, you know, I and I especially, I take life very seriously sometimes,
Mhm.
every single thing matters, every single decision matters, every single choice I make matters.
Mhm.
Um, but kind of just reminding, like, we're all here just to have a good time, experience things, make some friends along the way, learn some new things, and, in the large scale of things, um, you know, I don't remember where I read it, but it like stuck with me forever. It's like a 2-minute story essentially where it like I think it changed the way I viewed life. It essentially was like, we're all just energy and stars out there in the universe, and
Mhm.
um that's where we like coexist with the rest of this galaxy and the rest of the planets. And there happens to be this one planet out of in like this billions of years where, someone asks us if you believe in God, otherwise some energy, where they say, how would you like to go to this place called Earth? And you'll only be there for like a fleeting moment of time, but in that moment of time, you'll experience every emotion there is out there. You'll experience like happiness, you'll experience anger, you'll experience grief, you'll experience joy, love, heartbreak, empathy, but it's only going to be for like a fleeting moment of time. And then you're asked, do you want to go? And if we're here, it's probably because we said yes.
Yeah.
So I think like I like love this story because I think it just reminds me that like it's okay. Like the day to day at the end of the days, even like 5 years from now, are going to be quite insignificant. So just like enjoy the journey as it is. Um, at least like while we're here. I think the bigger it helps me so many times because I have a habit of like narrowing down on like my to-do list items or like the things I'm doing. But yeah, so I hope it helps.
Um, yeah, that's such a beautiful story and a great way to end this. And yeah, I totally agree. I think, as we go through the mindful journey, it's so easy to like become hyper aware of everything and like every decision you're making, because that is sort of part of it. Like you're becoming more in tune with yourself and your body. But then you do have to kind of remind yourself that it's just, it's an experience and we have to enjoy it and we have to take in all the emotions and opportunities and, and also just listening different about different people's stories. And yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to share yours today and that you enjoyed being on the podcast. You're our first
Yeah,
guest,
definitely.
so super exciting.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm so honored. I'm
Mhm.
sure this podcast is absolutely going to take off. Like the best of luck.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, this has been a great opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to our listeners, and we'll see you next time.